everybody, out here with another episode of Broken Cards of Hearthstone. So today we will continue with the discussion about broken cards in the last expansion. However, before I start, there's one thing which I wanna talk about, and that is the new feature here, and that is quests. So when I did my previous video, I said it's hard to tell how if these quests are broken or not. Only time show because I have really little like personal experience how they work. Now I actually have a few quests, so now I know what they about. So let's take some spotlight for quests specifically. First and most importantly, one thing which I forget say last time, I'm glad we finally have a legendary spell. So that's a definitely great idea. And as I can tell, quest always get in your hand always at the start. Like it's a card which you always have first, which I think is great because as I said many times in past, the one thing which make this game a little problematic is randomized nature, and this slightly, insignificantly, like help to reduce the problem because finally you have card which is reliable, which always get first in your hand, and it's pretty good card, so that's a good thing. So in terms of strength and usefulness, the quests are generally really useful. But I get the conclusion they are also need to be mentioned on this video because quests, and I mean all of them, are actually pretty broken. Uh, Not necessarily because they are overpowered, but well, for different reasons. So let me give you explanation. The first problem which I can see with the quest is as a reward for completing your quest, you get a reward, and the reward is different for each class. And honestly, I think some classes have better rewards than the others, which is which isn't exactly like what I will consider as fair. So that is not the good thing. I mean, it's something which could be expected because with 9 classes, it's difficult to like balance things and make things fair play for everyone. So this is a little problematic because, for example, Druid get this card which Barbus, I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but basically what this creature do is basically set price all cards in your hand to 0, which is super powerful and universally useful. That's great. So you basically cannot, a new opponent basically cannot do anything about this. Um, but for example, Paladin reward, it's basically card which pretty much just adapt 5 times. I mean, 5 times it's a lot, but the card can be destroyed, which basically mean if it's destroyed, then that's it, and you're done. Unlike Druid, who can basically use the profit from his reward like for like extend period of time, and this card can actually this reward can be simply killed or silenced. Even if you can say like it cannot be degraded by spell, because that's one of those evolutions, I mean adaptations which are available here. And it still mean absolutely nothing because it still can be targeted by battle cries. And there is several silencing card in battle cries. I think battle cry will be like really much more important with this expansion because there is many really powerful cards. So I think Paladin's Reward is actually like weakest of all classes, which I personally have not a problem with because I think Paladins are pretty overpowered already. They have many really good cards, many too good cards, and because of that, but still, it's not fair. So a second problem with the quest is quest actually forcing you play specific strategy. And what I mean by that, let me give you another example. For example, I have this quest with Shaman, which I test. It's a great quest for Shaman deck. It's a perfect. You get basically Megafin, who is basically Battle Cry, basically fill your hand with the Murlocs. And if you ever play with Murlocs, and you know the big problem with the Murloc decks is really easy, like empty your hand with Murlocs and being stuck with a situation where you don't know have or no longer have any cards. This card basically perfectly fixed this. That is amazing. But only if you play Murloc. The question is, what if you don't want to play Murloc? What if you want to play totems? Or what if you want to play spells? Or these overlords cards? There's several different strategies. I mean, seriously, if I go here, then Blizzard basically telling you like there is several suggested strategies, and on top of that, I wonder how will Okay, I'm almost perfectly matching this. Yeah, but there's two other strategies, and keep in mind if you like me and you really don't care about standard and you playing wild, then there's even more strategies. You can have overload strategy, you can have all god strategy. There is so many way how you can build my deck. I mean, seriously, I have another uh series of video which is basically dedicated this. And I think, for example, Shaman is currently best class for making a battle cry based deck, which kinda sucks because, as I said, the quest basically forcing you play specific way. So if you have this card in your deck, that is great. That is if you wanna play Moonlock. But if you don't wanna play Moonlock, then the card is useless to you. So basically, and keep in mind, any player who use the quest have a huge advantage, really enormous advantage. We can make a serious difference in our gameplay. But the problem is the quest basically force you play specific way. And if you don't do that, then you lose. Or there is high chance you lose. So that is one thing which make basically the quest broken. Because A, they each class have different rewards and they are not equally good, and B, it's basically literally forcing you play specific way, and if you don't want to play this way, well, sucks for you. There is any other options, like there's nothing which you can do about this. You can either play specific way, or basically it's take away freedom from creating new card, and also it's serious disadvantage if you play against somebody who actually have quest. So yeah, so quests are generally fairly really broken. Don't make me wrong, I really do like idea of quest. I really have few quests myself, and I think it's great idea. I like that concept, but the way how are executed right now is bad. It is terrible. There is actually there is actually a simple solution how quest can be fixed. It's actually easy one. Only thing which you need to do is two things. First, you need say there is additional rule, and that is you can have only one quest per deck. And second, all quests will be a neutral card. Because if these two things will be done, then actually help a lot. Because first, you are basically help to fix the situation with some class have better rewards than the others because suddenly all quests will be available to all class, which means nobody is overpowered because every class have access to every quest, which I think help improve the situation a lot. Second, uh, quest will be not as forceful in terms of what kind of strategy you want to have because you have much more option, much more freedom in terms of how you want to create your deck because you have each class have suddenly access to 9 different quests. So if these two changes will be implemented, and honestly, think I think this is something which eventually happen because as I said, it's really difficult to fix the situation how it's right now. That is basically only way how quest can be fixed. So I'd be really surprised if Blizzard really don't do anything about this. Well, technically there is another solution, and that is basically use sort of like say um let's say we can instead move quest into these like fraction basically, and by that I mean these like jade lotus and such. So let's say there will be quests which can be used by warriors, rogue, and hunters, uh, and the same with the other fraction. But to be perfectly honest, I think make them completely neutral is much better choice because it's give you much more freedom. It's help it's basically make quest balance, and by that I mean like perfectly, almost perfectly balanced. And well, they can still be broken. Some of them still can be broken, but nobody can no longer complain about this class have better reward than my class. That is not fair. And also, it's won't force to play a specific way, which I think is too big problem. So this is something which I wanna say at the start of things and just mention this quickly as I continue. But now it's time to continue and talk about mage and paladin in terms of which kind of broken card they have. So first is okay. This is quest. I mentioned these, so now I can skip this and continue. This card is, I think it's okay. Now we have this thing. Okay, this thing is the new elemental mechanic. I am very disappointed by this mechanic. I actually expect like some sort of synergies, like maybe elementals do something when they are together. But in most situations, it's like if you play elemental in previous turn, then it happens something like right now, and I don't like this. I don't like this at all because it's bad. It's really, really bad. The mechanic it's unnecessarily complicated and it's a little tricky. Like you basically have some synergies, but you have no guns. Something basically which necessarily must or did or didn't happen. I don't know. It really doesn't seem to be too good. Overall, this card, it's okay, I guess. It's actually, I think it's actually maybe a little too weak for spell, but that is okay. So definitely not necessarily broken. Not actually not broken at all. This is basically like different form of portal. Okay, this card here. This card here, I think this card here is not overpowered and not actually game breaking. Or I would use a word useless because it's death rattle basically return card in your hand, and the card have like standard stats, but death rattle really don't do anything. It just put hand back in your hand, and it's got back in your hand and becomes stronger. I mean, its stats become stronger, which is good, but its cost becomes stronger too, which mean it's basically same card, except it's stronger version of the same card. So that's kind of pointless. Like most of the, I wanna say like there are some death rattle card which basically put another card after they die directly on battlefield, and then sometimes the card is even stronger before it was before that. This gun don't do this, so not necessarily broken or overpowered, just sort of pointless. Then we have this another pointless card. This is like different version of um, mirror image, which to be perfectly honest, I think this card is, even if this card do basically same thing like a mirror image, except not with minion but with the spell, then I think mirror image is highly superior card because here is the thing. If enemy play a minion and you get copy on your board, that's good. Not necessarily all minions which your enemy wanna play are good, but the fact is having a free minion is always good because they can at least always attack or have some useful ability. But with the spells it's a little more tricky because minions are almost always useful, but the spells, there are some spells you probably don't want. There may be some spells which can do something which you really don't want to do, and that's make this card less useful. So don't let go. I don't think it's not necessarily um broken. It's just not exactly useful. I really like this card because this card is take me once again a step closer the non-damage mage, and this is basically my ultimate dream. I wait for this song. I'm really close. I think I need like one more card, and by this I mean like seven card. There's basically a card which pretty much, well, it's a damage card, but it's not just damage card. It's damage and summon minions. So I think I actually can make a non-damage spell and finally make my dreams come true. Almost. I'm almost there. I need just one more card, and this is another card which bring me closer. So great. That's great. Definitely, I really like this card. Other than that, this card work a similar way as a faceless manipulator, except with the several small changes here. Unlike Faceless Manipulator, this card have low mana cost, which is good, and it can summon the card, which means the card don't trigger already mentioned mirror image, which is good. But at the same time, there are some restrictions, and that is you cannot do this with a card which cannot be targeted by spells or hero powers because it's spell. But the benefit is the card actually is a spell, which means it can actually trigger some other effects which are caused by spells. So Yeah, it's actually interesting card because it's do basically same thing like a faceless manipulator, but there are some small changes in a specific situation. This card can react differently, and definitely interesting card. Mm, honestly, I think it's a little cheap. It could be. It should cost more. I think it's a little overpowered, slightly. But as I said, it's really depend on situation. Yeah, let's move on. Then we have okay, I don't know what Flying Gazer is, but it is sounds really strong. I have really high stats, but Flame Geyser probably have, well, definitely have it on my console. That's okay. Then we have this card. I think this card is disgustingly overpowered. It really is. I mean, this card is basically, this card is basically Flame Lance on steroids. I mean, yeah, it has a slight, it has one more mana cost, and it's just like Flame Lance can be cast only on minions, but the damage which this thing can release is enormous. And even even if you cast this card, even if there are not other minions, even if there is just one minion on a board, this card is basically able to take down anyone. Like seriously, how many minions in the game can survive 15 damage? That's basically one hit kill. That is more than uh how the spell is called, and uh, flame strike, I believe. No, what's the name of the spell? Pyroblast. That is more than Pyroblast. Pyroblast do only 10 damage, and it's cost 4 crystals more. I mean, yeah, you can cast it on your heroes as well, but seriously, how many minions in a game can successfully survive? How many minions in a game can uh what the hell? Wait, what? What is the card? Oh, okay. Here. There we go. So yeah, this card is definitely highly overpowered. Even with the restriction, like only minions, I think 15 is still way too much because honestly, they really. I mean, this card can take down a freaking Deadwing with one shot. You can one shot freaking Deadwing with this card. And there are even some cards which are even more ridiculously resilient than Deathwing. There is actually a card right here, Ultrasaur, who have 14 hit points, which is like probably the most resilient card in the game. And even this card can be one shot by this. So yeah, Meteor Strike is definitely very broken and very overpowered, and that is even if that is only if you have one. If you have more minions in the board, then you can make even more mess. So yeah, this card is basically like Flamelands on steroid, and I think it's disgustingly overpowered. I don't like this card at all. Let's move to Paladin. Paladin. Okay. We have this thing adapt. I think that's pretty much standard. This is standard. Whereas I actually think here's the thing I wanna say. As I said before, Paladin have basically worst reward from all classes, which for once I'm actually okay with. But I already say my opinions or what, so let's skip it. Uh, seriously, more Murlocs, but at least this Murloc don't have any like a synergy with other Murlocs, so at least this. But the secret is still really powerful. I'm actually surprised this card don't have a um, condition if you hold Murloc discovers your secret, which is usually what these cards do, but seriously, Blizzard, I don't understand your obsession like giving Holy Warrior Murlocs. That's make no sense to me. I said this several times before, and I said it again. Card as itself, however, is not necessarily overpowered, so I'm pretty much okay with the card. If I judge card itself, that is okay as a card. But I don't like idea of Murloc being connected with the Paladin, but this is not what this video is about. Then we have this card, which I actually like this card. I think it's a great card. Again, same thing which been said previously can be applied here. But if I judge just the card itself, I think it's actually a good card. I don't think it's necessarily overpowered. It's a decent card. We have this thing. Okay, okay. I think this card is really broken, really overpowered. Because not only, not only this card have really high stats. Well, it's actually not that high. They are actually slightly lower than it's usually be. But problem is, you can have like tons and tons of silver hands to recruit, and bonuses which you can receive from this are really pretty ridiculous. So yeah, that is pretty overpowered. We have this thing which you get actually down and battle not battle cry the rattle effect, which is really unusual for paladin, but uh these bonuses are not that big, so only question is how powerful this Tegagon will be. I believe I did some calculation and I think it's worth of two crystals. So I could expect like creature which will be like 2/2 or something like that. But as I know Blizzard, it's probably be stronger. Probably. Something tell me it will be probably stronger. So if the crystal be worth of just two crystal, then it's okay. If not, then it's overpowered. But other than that, great card. We have a tasting. Okay, that is another card which is pretty ridiculously overpowered. I mean, this card can be. I mean, this card is really situational, and how much useful or broken this card be really depends on situation. The card can be really strong if you have a bunch of weak minions on your board. Then that can have, for example, bunch of Silverhand recruits. Then this card can upgrade all of that, and it can be pretty ridiculously overpowered. If you have lots of really strong minions, their stats can be highly reduced. It's a very The card is very situational, but also it's very multi-purpose, and I think it's too strong, especially for such a powerful effect which this card can provide. Uh, I think the stats are a little too high, like 7 8 points and 3 damage. There's like 7 5. It's standard. It have not any special ability, but it does. So that is like damage is 2 points lower than it normally be. So I think they should be lower, especially health, because it's a relatively difficult take this turn down. And on top of that, the card is down. So this card is pretty ridiculous. It's it's very much situational, but at the same time, I think it's a little too strong. Let's move on. We have this thing which I think it's okay. And then we have Dino Size. As you can see, I have two copies of this card. What a surprise. Um, so this card is a little more uh, difficult to describe because when I see this card very first time, I was like, "Oh my god, this is so ridiculously overpowered." That was the first thing which came into my head. But then I realized one thing because I was thinking like this is basically give you 10 stat for 8 mana, which is OP as hell. But then I realized one thing. This card don't add your minion the 10/10. It's set your minion the 10/10, which actually help a balance this card a lot. This card is clearly the design the being combined with the cards like anything possibly, because you basically play this card for 0 and then you have 10/10 card. But this is work only if you have tiny fin, if you don't have anyone else. There are some other cards. Basically, this card can be really great if you cast it on a cheap minion, or to be more specific, minion with the low stats. Because lower stats minions have the bigger difference this make for card, and it's actually change equation a lot. And that is actually usefulness of the card is really depends on usefulness of this card is really depends on like which other cards you have on board. The card is actually much better balanced than I originally expected, and it really depends on the situation. And there are actually some combination which can give you like pretty ridiculous results. I can give you a few examples. I already mentioned like this super low stats card, and most of the situation is like same thing. But imagine if you combine this card, if you are able to give any card stats 1/1, and which card can have possible best benefit. So how about this card? Imagine if you can give this card set their stats to 10/10. That will be something like, I mean, 10/10 by itself it's really a lot, but if you combine this with the special ability, that can be like pretty ridiculous. Another example is, how about this card? How about having 10/10 card with charge? That is pretty ridiculous because that's like 10 damage instantly. That is pretty good, if I can say. Or how about this card? That is like two ten by itself it's a lot, but if you combine this with fuck it's a spin for it. That is like 20 damage in the face, bro. That is a lot. That will be really, really painful. But that's not only option. There is definitely more option with this card. For example, uh, for example, how about let's say how about how about this card? That's also not bad. Or how about let's see. How about this thing? And then town, opportunist. That's pretty good, I must say. Or how about if you combine this card with this? But this will be a little too difficult because, like, with high cards, it's a little more tricky to pull off because card itself costs a lot, which is the one thing, as I said, which make this card a little more balanced. But at the same time, there are still some interesting options. How about if you combine this card with this card? Like 10-10, like stats are not too great because you actually waste potential of this card, but you get Divine Shield, that's pretty good. Uh, Another thing which is actually interesting about this card, because this card not add not add the stats, but set the stats. It's technically work as a alternative methods of healing. Because imagine I play basically, imagine I play with this card. It's if this card with my deck there is bunch of buffs. So with this deck, this card can be really dangerous. So somebody probably try to take this card down. So let's say this card takes some damage and it have one remaining hit point. If I cast Size on it, its activated special ability, it's get Divine Shield and its heal, its damage, and its increase its damage, its hit points to 10, and increase the damage also 10. That's pretty good. Or, another example, how about this card? It's steel, and it's really difficult to destroy the steel minion with a 10 and 10 hit points. So you have basically, it is almost impossible. I mean, far as I know, there is only two way how you can do such a thing, and that is with the use of mass silence, mass damage, or some randomly targeted spell which can accidentally hit him. But even then, it's really unlikely he die. And you can basically keep him as a your final resolution. Basically, keep him safe in the shadows, and when your enemy's hit points drop to 10, then you can do your final strike from the shadow and finish your enemy like with one glorious hit. Definitely interesting strategy. And another one which I want to mention here is actually, okay, how about this thing? I don't think this card received nearly as um, much love as is deserved, but when the dino size is combined with this card, that could be pretty ridiculous. I mean, think about it. You have 10 minions with the regeneration. That's pretty powerful. Or a last one, I really can be there and talk about this like for ages because there is so many combinations which you can do with this. So how about this card? I mean, it's already it's an expensive card, but If this card can survive another turn, only thing which you need to have at least one hit point, and then suddenly you turn it into 10-10. Then your enemy have a big problem. Really, really, really big problem. So yeah, I think I mentioned probably a little too many of examples, but Dino Size is a card which can be actually really powerful, but at the same time, it isn't necessarily broken and overpowered as it seems on a first look, because it's really situational, and you need a little bit of planning. I mean, sure, it can unleash insanely powerful effect, and somebody can say in past I call different things overpowered because they give you these things, but I don't think if you can get some powerful effect through a clever planning and a good strategy, then I don't think that's overpowered. That is clever. If you are able to like do some really smart strategy, and this card definitely is can be really powerful, but it's required a little bit of planning, and it's sometimes can be a little difficult to use this card. But honestly, I think even if this card is combined just with a silver hand recruit, it still can be powerful. So yeah, on first looks, it looks like it's overpowered, but in reality, it's not. And I think it's a really really good card. In fact, I'm even dare to say it is one of the most creative cards which I saw in a very long time. So yeah, I believe that is everything from Paladin. So that was Paladin. So next time we do Priest and Rogue, but we are done for today. Okay, that was actually longer than I expected, but this is how these things work. So yeah, that's everything for today. And as always, thanks for your time, and I see you later.